Hi, good morning, everyone. Uh, Interesting topic. Thanks, Zahid, for this. A lot of people, a lot of brands, a lot of marketing heads talk about content, content marketing, etc., etc. Everyone knows its importance. Everyone knows it is important. The conversation for today, therefore, is about how do you manage this journey, which everyone knows is important, which everyone says is important, but how do you manage this journey from actual creation of content across the consumer journey or the lifetime of the consumer for a brand to its actual execution? How do you manage that? What are the challenges one would face primarily from the perspective of metrics that you use to measure your content journey? How do you convince internal stakeholders that this is not a one time exercise, it's not a one off exercise, but this is something you got to do throughout the year? I'd go to the extent of saying this is almost like creating newsrooms for brands. I mean, that's how important it is. That's how intense it is in terms of content creation for brands today. And would love to hear from some of the stakeholders at the brands that they manage as to how they go about doing it. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Sure. The privilege to be the first to share my thoughts. I think content is, I'm personally very passionate about creating content. In fact, a couple of months ago, I started my own YouTube channel. And my husband is a photographer. I mean, it's his hobby, not by profession. And we realized that, the journey to creation, right, and then promotion of the content is really difficult. Like you mentioned, it requires a complete thought process. It requires a lot of patience, right? Because it's not one size fits all, first of all, right? You may have people who will love your content, but you will have a lot of criticism also coming your way. We were so disappointed when we started posting videos. We were in love with the videos we were posting, right? But when we started looking at the analytics, thanks to YouTube, you can see how people are engaging with your video content, right? We were amazed to see that most of the people were dropping off after watching the videos for 30 seconds. So that was, an eye-opening experience. And we started looking into the data, and we started doing a lot of analysis around how people are engaging, what people are writing, right, as part of the comment section, and the verbal feedback that we got from the friends. And based on the insights that we were collecting, we started improving our content. And within just no time, we started seeing a lot of people subscribing to our channels and the engagement rate go up. So I'll just summarize by saying that first thing that I learned was that it requires a lot of patience, it requires a lot of analysis, it requires a lot of in-depth knowledge about what you want to create, who you are creating the content for, and let the data do the job for you. So, I'll start with this and share more.
Zahid, at HDFC, I'm sure you guys create a lot of content. How do you manage some of these things, whether it's convincing internal stakeholders of the need to continuously invest in content creation? What are the kind of metrics to use? And how important is regional content also for HDFC? Because that's something that a lot of brands, when they are planning for content creation, maybe don't take into account. But regional content is obviously something that one can't ignore anymore. More so with the rise of regional influencers, content creators, etc. So, what do you have to say about that?
Thanks, Vishal. I think the way we are putting it across to customers as well as the stakeholders internally are two things, right? So, content, like, see, we people don't get up in the morning thinking about a banking product, unfortunately, right? They think about their passion point. It's a travel, it's a home, it's a auto, it's a car. That's their passion point. Okay, we are just an enabler. So if we have to reach out to them and avoid the pesky calls, which people are pretty frustrated today with, okay, we have to be a part of their entire journey. Okay. Now, if you see, the number of test drives in a car has reduced from 4 to only 2 or 1.5 to 2. Okay, that's because people are consuming content on YouTube. The entire simulation is happening on YouTube, and that's only one test drive. The entire finalization is happening over the content. So what we have to do is tag along and create multiple content and create that kind of a pull and it cannot be pushed throughout the journey of a customer. And that's what we're trying to follow as a modus operandi. And what's interesting is across the purchase funnel, it's an IDA model, right? And we have added an N to an IDA. Now, we'll all understand there is an awareness, interest, desire, action. We all know that. But if you see in the industry, any industry, okay, a conversion will be what? 8 to 10%, right? What happens to the remaining 90% of the leads that you have already acquired? You must have paid, you must have put an effort to it, right? And that is where, again, nurture is something that we try to build very strongly. And nurture cannot happen via ads, it has to happen via content. Okay. And there are multiple formats of nurture that we try to do. Interestingly, so we have YouTube videos, it can be a long format, it can be a short format, right? We have reels, which is becoming a very interesting format of content nowadays. And because the organic exposure is so much that we think reels are one of the best ways to do can create content, right? And then we have the articles, we are getting into podcasts, and then we have the infographics. So we are trying to create, so we have 9 key pillars before we kind of zoom in into an article. So first is obviously, what is the objective or what is the product? Is it a product led or is it a brand led or is it a pillar led? So as a brand, I might want to show I'm a progressive brand. So hence my entire content structure will be towards the orientation of being progressive. Or is it a product led content? Then I'll try to understand what is the buying journey that I'm trying to focus on. Because was he exploring or was he a drop off from the cart? My content will be accordingly. Then what I'll try to see is what is the persona of the buyer who had come. Accordingly I have to write, okay, because it has to be gender specific and life stage specific, right? And then there will be the introduction of behavioral science into it, right? Am I trying to create familiarity? Am I trying to create trust, social proof? So these are all the elements like this. You have 10 pillars of behavioral economics. These all get into this to create one piece of article into multiple formats, and then we kind of roll it out. That's what we are doing. And the way we are convincing is, I remember 6, 7, 8 years back, my team, we took around 8 months to convince the senior stakeholders. Okay, we started the journey, and today our blog, we are only in the article section. We cross around the 1.5 million organic content that's coming month-on-month basis. Okay, and that's the growth, and I think we're getting good support in terms of, we obviously show the growth. There are different kind of measurement metrics. What we generally say is the advantage of digital is also its disadvantage. We put everything as measurement, and that's where even if content, people will say number dikhao. Okay, but so we have at least established different kind of measurement metrics in terms of content, and that's a different science that you have put maybe for some other day or some other topic. Okay, and yes, regional is very important, right? So see, banking is something where if it's transactional, people still understand an FD, people still understand savings. They really don't need to understand a bachat, or they don't really need to understand other forms, or the Hindi or the other Telugu or Tamil, forms of the same English content. It's transactional. But when I'm talking about exploratory content, that is where people then love to consume their article in the language that they prefer. Okay, and we have started integrating tools where it's on the fly, it's not translation, it's transliteration or transcreation that we're focusing on. It's nascent, it's kind of inchoate at this point of time. The traffic is nothing as compared to the huge traffic that we get otherwise, okay. But we are seeing a traction, and we cannot ignore Google algorithms at all, which is also showing a lot of tractions on the SEO point of view. Yeah, that's all.
So you spoke about especially getting some of those leads which haven't converted, in terms of how to nurture them, how to ensure that over a period of time they are shared branded content, and therefore in a sense get them to convert sometime later. There are many other stages in a customer lifecycle journey, from the time a customer is onboarded to the time the customer starts spending time and money with the brand, to the time where maybe he goes off radar, becomes a lapser, and the brand wants to get him back, to post sale servicing, etc., etc. So how important do you think are these pieces in the customer life cycle journey, and how important is content creation at every point of time during this journey, and how do you manage it for your brands?
Thank you for the question. So I think every stage of a customer journey is important. So what we do in our IT company is we see what are the end goals, what do we want to achieve, and then our marketing efforts, our digital journey depends on that. We also see what the target audience is. Like my fellow panelists said, identify personas, see the digital trends, see competition analysis, and then we jot down on the digital strategy and do digital planning. So there are a lot of tools that are available for this. So we see what kind of tools we want to use, and then make a digital strategy where we see what we want to do on the website. We see if we want to do paid. We see the social media. In social media also, there are a lot of things that we have to consider, whether a video format will work as best, or image, or a podcast, or an infographic. So all these things we have to consider before jotting down what we want to convey to the end customer. Then, post that, as my fellow panelists said, it is important to analyze. So, if one campaign, if something has not performed in the other digital strategy, we shouldn't include that. So, I think analyzing all that is also very important. Post that, there are some stages in the digital journey that we consider. So these stages are firstly awareness. Awareness of any brand that is conveyed through social media, what the product is about, what we want to convey as a brand. The second stage is consideration. So this is in between awareness and purchase, when the customer is considering of buying the product or no. The third is purchase. Purchase means when you hit the target audience and then they are convinced whether to buy your product. The third is retention. Retention is when the customer is reminded of your product. So all your marketing efforts in these each of the journey is very important. And the last is advocacy. I think in our company we focus mainly on advocacy. Advocacy is basically when your target audience, or when your customers, they be your company's advocates. So when they are promoting your products, they are posting like a good review, they become the company's advocates. So we also focus a lot on advocacy, and lot of emphasis is should be on advocacy these days, because they are their friends or their networks, they see what kind of promotions they are doing, and they kind of get influenced. So I believe every stage in the customer journey is important, and every stage should be focused on. And the marketing efforts, digital strategy, social media strategy depends on that.
Zahid mentioned about the fact that the advantage that digital has can also turn into a disadvantage, that we end up possibly trying to measure everything. Digital offers us that positive, but maybe it's not right to just about measure everything. So how do you define metrics? And that's where that clarity is very critical. What are you expecting from a piece of content, and whether it's performance marketing led, whether it will dial up some of your brand health scores? How critical is that? How do you manage that?
Hi, thank you for the question. So, I feel that, especially the niche that we're in, we work with revenue management for rental properties. Um we want to make sure that there is consumption. Whether it's converting or not is the next step, but whether there is someone reading your content needs to relate to the content that you're building out. It's for them, Jahid said, that we have to make sure that the content is being written for that particular persona. Um, so whether it converts or not is the next step. Whether you get a sale or not is the next step. But it's very important that the story building or the storytelling that you're doing is being consumed by your for that matter, even YouTube video, right? Like, you want people to consume that content. Um, and having said that, you also need to sort of stand apart from, from the noise. Content creation is it's such an abused term now. Everyone thinks they can create content, but sure, you can create content, but whether someone is consuming it or not is the parameter that you should be looking for. And that changes for industry to industry, persona to persona, uh, gender to gender. And keeping that in mind, I feel, is the biggest advantage of going digital, if you look at it that way. Disadvantage is only when you see that someone's not consuming it, right? Yeah.
You mentioned about YouTube Studio throwing up a lot of analytics and so for me one of the things that stands out, and I tell most of the brands we create video content for, is that maybe you should not focus too much on subscribers and number of views, but more on which is the kind of audience that is actually seeing your content. Is it the intended target audience? The audience that you created your content for? What is the average watch time? How long are they consuming your content? Because 5-7 seconds is fine. I mean, they'll skip the ad and move on to the next one. Is your content being consumed for longer than the standard 12-13 second duration that any content is consumed? So to me, and also more importantly, engagement. How are customers, or how are viewers rather, engaging with your content? Are they and I think even getting a critique for your content is great, because someone is still engaging with you. It has made a difference to that person, and therefore he's responding to your content. Doesn't matter whether he likes it or dislikes it, but there is a conversation that your content has sparked. So to me, the average watch time and the conversations that your content can create is far more important than just the number of views or subscribers. So how do you see this part play out specifically in YouTube, since you mentioned about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And like I mentioned, it requires a lot of patience, right? The biggest mistake a lot of people who start their YouTube channel, the biggest mistake they make is that they want to earn money through YouTube, right? So from day one, the goal is that YouTube should convert into monetization, right? That is not the goal that you should start with. I absolutely agree with you that it has to be the watch pattern, right? Where people are dropping from, right? And again, mentioning the point around YouTube analytics, studio analytics, right? It also tells you the dip points, right? And the high points in your video. So why don't you look at those patterns, right? That are visible in front of you and take corrective action. So it's just not about the number of views. It's just not about, now there are bots, right? So you can buy views, unfortunately, right? So it's just not about the views. It's just not about the money that you can earn from YouTube channel. It is all about driving that engagement. And it's a long-term play. I seriously feel, based on my experience, YouTube is a long-term play. So is the case with so many other channels as well, right? Switching gears to Instagram, right? A lot of brands I've seen, they are not focusing on number of subscribers, right? If you see the real engagement that they get, right? The content that they get from the users, right? User generated content is becoming so popular, right? And advocacy, you mentioned about advocacy, a great example of how you can build a brand, how you can build a community on different channels and drive engagement, right? So irrespective of the number of subscribers, right? If you see a great content reel being posted by a subscriber, a great reel posted by somebody who you can relate to, right? I buy a lot of products, from brands that are very active on Instagram, because I can actually see how the products look like on a real customer, right? Not on celebrities. So I think it's all about driving that end-to-end engagement and not just falling into the trap of generating revenue and generating the subscribers and followers. I think it's much more than that.
So you spoke about Instagram Reels and how important it is in driving, organic reach. You also spoke about Instagram Reels. I can vouch for the fact that as a production house, we've now reached a stage where we actually spend days shooting reels for brands. Gone are the days when you shot the digital film and adapted reels from those films. Now, today I'm going to Goa, and we're shooting for 4 days, and one day is being dedicated only to shoot reels. That's how critical it is. Some brands, I'm shooting for a fashion brand, so some brands have understood that you just can't, adapt one kind of content and fit it into a reel. You have to create content for reels, like you have to create content for YouTube Shorts, which is going to be very different from your standard YouTube video. The objective of each of these content pieces is different, and obviously, therefore, the pressure to create and the intensity of effort that needs to be put in to create different kinds of content across platforms and within those platforms, whether it is a story content, whether it is a reel, or whether it is a post, or whether it is short form or long form, is that much more on brands, and therefore that much more pressure to convince stakeholders that you need to invest your time and money to get this going, which will start possibly showing results in maybe 12 to 18 months' time. But like he said, brands and stakeholders want results instantly, because you know what? Digital is measurable and it needs to give results instantly. So, how do you manage this dichotomy? At one end, there is that constant pressure to create so much, some to be promoted, some with the intention that it reaches the audience organically. And how do you balance that out with the commerce or the budgetary constraint perspective? How do you meet this challenge as a brand, as a digital, as a marketing head? So would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Let me attempt this. I'm trying since last decade now. Okay, so, but see, if this is content, this was a brand plugin, and that's the essence of content marketing, and that's what we try to sell it to our stakeholders. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, see, we have defined commercial ad isn't very tactical, right? You spoke about brand consideration. Okay, brand considerations, let's say conversions, organic increase in your brand keywords. These all happen when you do a high tactical, high burst commercial campaign. Content will not lead to any of these, and you have to be very clear about that fact. Okay, content is a very slow, organic, but highly penetrated growth. Because if somebody is growing via content, the level of his commitment towards you, because he's investing so much of time consuming your content, the affinity towards your brand, and hence turning to be a prosumer or an advocate is much, much higher. So the level of frivolousness will be much reduced, and hence a content developed guy will be his lifetime value will be much higher than anybody who has come from a high tactical campaign. First proof of concept or proof of pudding is, look at a commercial campaign, traffic, 100 people have come to your page from a ad. Look at the time spent. Look at the bounce rate. 75% on an average, time spent will be hardly 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. Look at a guy who has come from organic content. The traffic might be 50, but the time bounce rate will be not more than a 50%, 40%, depending on your content. And the time consumption will be completely different depending on your quality of content and how you're trying to consume, kind of creating intrigue over there. So that's the difference between content and advertisement that we're doing. And both serves its own purpose. Nothing is either or. Okay. Second is, when we're trying to convince, is we have created a model. Let me give it out to free to this small room. Is a 2x2 matrix. There is a category of people who is not aware of your category, nor the brand. There is a category of people who is aware of the category, but not the brand. There is a category of people who is aware of both, and leave aside the fourth quadrant. Now, content comes very heavy in the first two quadrants. People who are not aware of the category completely, forget about the brand. People who are aware of the category, but not about the brand. This is where we use content, because if you these two categories, if you use commercial ads, nobody's going to pay heed to them. It's waste of money. And if they click, you're consuming, you're paying money. It's a media wastage for you guys. This is where you have to develop them, nurture them to come to a level where they appreciate your category and they look at Amphi. If you thought Amphi is only doing the advertisements, okay, the number of content that has gone is crazy. And that's where, as a whole, as an entire, let's say, effort that has been put across commercial ads and content, today the whole mutual fund industry is growing significantly, added to the introduction of a thing like a Zerodha, right? So everything comes and falls in place. And that's where, if I have to grow a category, if I have to grow a product to the category who is not known, to the audience who is not knowing them, I have to take help of content. The formats and everything, you guys all spoke about it. And to the last part of it, which is how do I convince CFOs? Okay, it is about when they consume content. So we get digital footprints, right? From that bucket, how do we convert them over a period of time is something that has become really healthy. Okay, if not HDFC Bank, there's a brilliant example of the way the Bank Bazaar and Paisa Bazaars, policy bazaars of the world do it. Okay, you go to their site once. The first 10 days you might be busted with calls. Okay, don't take the calls. Okay, after that, you will get brilliant, interesting emails. Let's say, I don't know if you, I see a very relevant young audience. Do you guys know the importance of CIBIL score in your life? Okay. That is what I'll try to introduce it to you, and you read the content. Okay. And maybe there is a very subtle plug-in as to how HDFC Bank can help you, or in that case, Policy Bazaar will help you. Okay. So this is how you do you know the importance of debt consolidation? Okay. So those are the things I'll never talk about my product in content. And when these happens, and if you're interacting, after that slowly via remarketing is what I'll try to prime you for my products. Eventually it pays off. Okay, and that's the most inexpensive and organic. So yeah, I might create, that cost is going over there, but the content consumption and then follow-up remarks is it's much more inexpensive than a paid marketing. Yeah.
I think it's a very valid example you gave of Amphi. Uh, and the reason it's so valid is that for years at end, they've been talking about how mutual funds are very important as a category for investors looking to grow their money to invest in. And it hasn't been about any particular brand. They've tried to grow the category. And with the resultant effect being that the campaign is so successful is that not only have the volumes of mutual fund sales been driven or gone up, but even the per person investment, or ARPU as they use in telecom, average revenue per unit, in this case, average revenue per customer in mutual fund has gone up. Both has happened. And that doesn't happen so easily. If volumes go, then your average revenue per customer goes down. But in this case, both have gone up. That has been the significance of driving category building. And more importantly, like he said, they have not just been a set of ads which has come once a year during IPL or during a World Cup. They are at it hammering the fact that mutual funds sahi hai throughout the year on TV, on digital, across categories, across platforms. And that's what now has resulted in the numbers that exist for mutual fund. And like Zaid said, I think another important point, if you can administer content to a certain set of customers or prospects throughout the life cycle, throughout the life, at every stage of the journey, eventually these customers become high revenue generating customers for you, as against those who've come in on the basis of some tactical or brand campaign and gone back the moment you are off air in a big way in media. But if you are regular in terms of administering your content to this set of people, they will end up becoming high value customers to you, and that is how it benefits in the long run. An important point that Zahid made, therefore, is that it is a slow burn. It's not going to yield results instantly. She also said that about YouTube and content creation, even for individual creators, that if you start from the premise that I'm going to get revenue from YouTube and that's why I'm going to create content, that's a wrong place to be in. You start because you want to create content, A, and either your content educates, informs, or entertains. And if it is useful even on these three parameters, it will eventually find its way into monetization or whatever, but that can't be your starting point. Having said that, there is a lot of effort and there is a lot of investment needed in creating content. There are a lot of smart ways of even doing it now. How much of a challenge is finding those smart ways of creating content without burning a hole in your pocket?
So yes, it is a challenge, but I've seen a lot of brands. Like I follow a lot of brands. Do competition analysis, and I see a lot of brands do like tricks on doing easy content. Like a lot of brands post quotes. A lot of brands do a quiz. They do open-ended questions. So these also are good content in terms of engagement, instead of just pushing out the content saying our brand is this is our advantage, this is our product. So I think mix of content and using good mix of different types of content, open-ended questions, all these I think are smart ways to get a lot of engagement. And like my fellow panelists said, Instagram stories and reels are getting a lot of engagement and a lot of interaction. So something like that is also, it's free and you don't have to really, if you're following a particular brand and you see a quiz you're really interested in, you just, vote for the quiz or just participate in the quiz. So that increases the participation. And also reels, like some if you do like I mean a very engaging reel, it doesn't have to be product related, that also can be quite engaging. So I think a good mix of all these kind of contents will really increase engagement and participation. So I hope that
Uh, while she spoke about how there are a few brands that create content quite smartly. Any examples that you'd like to give of brands that you've seen or looked up to who have really gone ahead and created tons of content which doesn't even look bad, which looks reasonably high quality content, and yet they keep churning it out, and maybe they also don't spend a lot of money doing that. Any examples you have in mind for the audience?
I think Policy Bazaar does a good job with that. Uh, they are on point. They tell you what is it that you might require, and finance is going to be an evergreen industry, right? That's not going to change. Um, I think even FinShots is doing an excellent job. Again, finance, because it matters so much to people who are aware, who want to be educated and who want to be entertained as well as inspired, right? Like, I feel a lot of brands are making an attempt in trying out different channels of communication, so to speak, but they are also trying out, especially the finance sector, especially the fintech sector, is doing an exceptional job. I feel it's also because you relate more to finance products than because it matters, right? At the end of the day, you need education and you need the awareness as well. But I feel like other brands which are into different sectors like beauty or other entertainment forms of entertainment, um, it's a very temporary phase that they sort of spend in a user's mindset, right? So I think for me, FinShots has been an excellent brand. There is a news sort of a website called the Ken Web. I think they do an exceptional job as well. That content again matters. It's educating, and it tells you what is it that you need to be aware of, especially when you want to stay abreast of what's happening in the startup ecosystem. Um, Bigger brands, I feel, are very temporary. Like आज ad देख ली, कल तुमने कोई और ad देख ली, simply because there is just so many, there are so many platforms, and now I'm sorry for bringing this up, but AI is not going to make things easy, right? It's not going to keep things easy. It's going to be a challenge to talk to people about how AI cannot solve for building content. It's not going to be able to create content for you. It's not going to be able to personalize content for you. It's not going to be able to understand your customer. And brands are going to explore this. And I'm just hoping that the two brands that I mentioned about don't do that, right? They don't fall into the chat GPT and the Jasper trap. Yeah.
You know, one brand that I would really want to talk about here, and if you have not, started looking at their content on social media, please do, is Nuwa Woman, right? Period education is such a taboo subject even today, and I feel ashamed of, of the fact that it is still a taboo, right? They are really breaking the stereotypes. Their products are amazing. The way they have built the community on social is amazing. I mean, I was surprised. I'm 38 years old. I was exposed to a lot of new information, right? And I love their content. I mean, I big salute to the person who's doing content marketing for the brand. It's amazing. I think you should definitely follow them on Instagram. Their stories, the way they do the contest, quiz, and the subjects that they pick up, right, are so sensitive sometimes. Maybe the Indian audience is not even ready for that kind of content, but they were bold enough to start that, right? So hats off to them.
And here I'd like to say that the brand that she just mentioned is also at every stage of the customer journey. I don't know if people have used that brand, but there is a reminder that maybe now is the time of the month when you need our pads, and they also have the facility of every 28 days or every 30 days they automatically if you subscribe they automatically courier it to your house, and these are things that they're absolutely amazing. I don't know of many brands who do this, and that's why so agree with her. I've also been tracking the kind of content they create, in the sense, inform and educate. They definitely do, and sometimes they do that also in an entertaining way. And there are multiple formats of content that they have created, and they all seem customized to that platform, to that kind of content, and it's not adapted from one master content and copy pasted somewhere else. So that's again something, they're following every correct rule of content creation. And my sense is, and I don't know the business numbers, they also seem to be growing every quarter.
Are giving a tough competition to Whispers and Sophies of the world.
Yeah, there you go.
Just wanted to add, that is, see, finance you were talking about. Of course, lifestyle, easier to do, and somebody's really cracking at it. Finance, you won't believe, it was considered to be one of the most boring subjects, right? And amazing to see that India's financial literacy rate is at 24%. Okay, as compared to, let's say, we are overtaking UK, their financial literacy rate is at as high as 60-70%. Okay, how many of us are aware that how should I maintain my credit card? Right, I can bet in this room, right? So what we are trying to do, in fact, and that's where I think people are trying to make finance more entertaining, because the information need not be so serious. It can be as entertaining as possible, and that's where I think likes of Neha Nagar, Rachna Rana De, or Sharan. Okay, and then the banks are also coming. The brands are also trying to do their own part to it. That's what we're trying to do. And something that's very interesting, which I'm following nowadays, is financial fraud. Okay, you are highly susceptible to fall to a financial fraud, and there is one influencer who has come very handy. Look for it. It's V for Vigilante. Okay, she's doing a fantastic job. Anu Menon has been pegged into that role. Okay, and V for Vigilante, she is kind of apprising you of the latest trends, because by the time the reel comes, the fraudsters trend has changed. So how will you keep up to the trend? Only after falling prey to it, or reading into the newspaper, or might as well be proactively aware of it. So that's what it's happening, and some of this work that's happening is fantastic. Yeah.
While we are coming to the fag end of the session, and before we throw open the floor to the audience in terms of questions, if they have any parting thoughts in terms of this content creation journey from creation to commerce, if you have to sum up this journey both as a brand creator or as an individual creator in one line, what would it be?
I think something that we have not spoken about is making the content inclusive, right? We fall into the trap of using Western images and people who our audiences can't relate with, right? When I was handling brand marketing for Diageo, I was so surprised to see the models used in images, right? I think the content was absolutely not inclusive. The other thing is conscious content creation. You mentioned about sustainability, right? Marketing can play a crucial role in terms of driving sustainability initiatives. Create what you need. There's so much being created. There's so much pressure on the agencies. There's so much pressure on the legal teams to review your content so that you can push it in the market, right? Reuse, repurpose, recycle, make a conscious effort to create what is absolutely needed, right? These are the two important bits, in my head. And whenever I coach brands, I talk about inclusivity when it comes to content creation and reusability. These are the two most important things.
I was smiling when you mentioned inclusivity, because that is a challenge I always face with brands when I create content, and there is a feeling that they feel that I'm pushing them to shoot. But my point to them is, use people who your audience can relate to. Your content needs to be authentic. Yes, it needs to be aspirational, but it still needs to be relatable. I don't need to use foreigners in my brand just to drive aspiration. I can do that as much showing people of my country. I believe in today's day and age, it's the other way around. They need to use Indians to make it look aspirational, and I think we need to get out of that mindset. A lot of brands are doing that, but that's just a small step. I agree with her. There's a long way to go as far as that is concerned, and I think yes, recycle, repurpose is very critical. If you're creating content throughout the year, automatically you will have the wherewithal to even recycle and repurpose, and people won't even realize it. We've shot content for a brand called Club Mahindra for 6 years. And last year we created a TVC for them out of all the content we shot, and nobody could even say that this is repurposed. Everyone felt that we had shot that television commercial, but no, it was actually repurposed content out of all that we had shot over the last 5 years. That's where, like he said, that slow burn helps. Eventually, what will happen is that you will be able to use so much of that content that you've shot or created that it will start paying for itself.
I think my final thoughts would be create content that matters and it will convert into commerce if it has to. Don't do a hard sell, don't force sell, don't ask your users to sign up for newsletters or click on CTAs. Don't do that. It's not important. They don't care. As long as you're providing value, it will convert into a commercial, like, it'll drive you revenue. If it's not important, if it's not relatable, it's a very short transaction that's going to happen because they will drop off. You will see a high churn. So maybe just create relatable content, create content with your users. Maybe spend time understanding what is it that they want to consume. And that's easier said than done. But it's important to spend time just as much as any other team does, right? Like a product team or a tech team or a sales team or a CS team. They actively spend time with customers understanding what is it that they might want instead of doing a hard sell. I feel marketing has slightly needs to go back to understanding that this is what my customer wants to read, they want to consume. Again, easier said than done, but very important. And commerce अपने आप हो जाएगा.
My final thoughts would be to be consistent with the content. Some brands I see, they post one content in 1 week, and after 2-3 weeks they put some other content. So we have to be like, for the brand, there has to be consistency. You have to basically go back and see what the analytics figure shows, what kind of customer persona, what kind of content they're relating to, and accordingly adapt. And here reusing and repurposing content also works. So if there is no content available, maybe you can reuse the content in a smart way or a different way. So I feel consistency is very important for any brand to push out content.
I think the point is well made. You're either in it or not. There are no half measures here.
So yeah, a couple of quick things. One is platform-centric content. You know, what I've seen is, let's say today, WhatsApp content is gaining significant momentum. People just copy-paste SMS into WhatsApp. Dude, WhatsApp gives you an amazing chance of conversational content. Use it. A lot of people are using influencers and they forget to use them or bits and pieces of it in the content that you're doing it on your WhatsApp. Okay, so please ensure that you are thinking a lot. A LinkedIn and an Instagram cannot be same. That's for thought leadership. This is for more of high engagement, right? So ensure that you're giving it a thought. That's the rigmarole that you have to really put in. It cannot be as BAU. Second part is tools that you have to use to enable yourself as superb content marketer. We spoke about repurposing, right? Invest in a digital asset management that will help you to keep a track of it and ensure that you're repurposing in the right way. Ensure that there is a good mix of CRM and a content piece so that you understand which content is giving you a good spike to which kind of customer base. That's how you will evolve. So do invest in tools too, which will be a great enabler for you to kind of get successful in content marketing.
Thank you, all you fellow panelists. I think it was a lovely, lovely conversation. I hope the audience enjoyed it as much as I did. I just saw Zahid looking at me, so maybe we just have time for a question or two, if there is any that the audience has, or else we proceed.
Hi, my name is Hitansh, and I work for Pepper Content. So I just thank you so much for all the insights that you guys put it forward. So I have a very small question, which I come across every day when I talk to all the brand managers or people who create content. So is it fair to expect conversions and leads and directly attribute it to the money spent on content marketing, especially since we are working with a lot of new age startups, so they don't have that content game that's very old, so something that Make My Trip has or a Policy Bazaar has. So but when you go to a new age startup, they are directly looking at, okay, what kind of, and even though if not conversions or leads, they talk about a lot of how many followers will I get or what kind of engagement can I see. So what is the conversation you think I should be driving there when they talk about leads or conversions directly?
I think the point that Zahid made, that this is a slow burn. You don't get instant results. Having said that, doesn't mean you don't define your success metrics. Depending on what you plan to achieve with your content. There are brands who've used influencers and they've figured out what their success metrics are. In some cases, it is reach. In some cases, it's a special coupon that they've attached with that influencer, and they've seen how many people have bought using that coupon. Now, that's one interesting way of figuring out whether that influencer, whether any purchases happened solely and wholly because of that influencer. There are some indirect metrics as to when that influencer was used in a particular campaign. Did it drive more footfalls on the website that he said? Did it drive more footfalls into the stores? Does it result in better lead to appointment ratio? Does it result in better appointment to sales ratio? These are some of the indirect metrics. I mean, you can't attribute that directly to a particular campaign or activity. Also, it depends on the intensity of the activity. If the activity is putting up an Instagram post using an influencer, I think you're expecting, or anybody is expecting too much if they feel that's going to result in sales. No, that can help you reach a lot more people. That can possibly dial up or build your followership a bit here and there. But I think more importantly, what is the period of activity? What is the kind of objective that you wish to achieve with a certain activity? There are, like I said, multiple objectives: dialing up brand health scores, maybe increasing your reach, maybe driving more footfalls to your website, app, or retail store, or maybe if you can tag along a coupon with an influencer, see how many sales came as a result of that. But I think that clarity needs to be existing both with the brand sanctioning the creation of that content and with the agency creating that content.
Just one line to it is, yes, I know a lot of brands are doing promo code led influencer marketing. I'll suggest again, try not to go for it. Okay, because till the time it's a very, very transactional product, like maybe just a payments, go for a Uber referral or go for this. Chances that you will not succeed, okay, and it'll all fall that influencer marketing is not working. Influencer marketing is the likes of an ATL, is to create that, or if it's a content, it has to be a slow burner. Okay, promo code, because I'm not going to use consuming it right there. Who will remember the promo code? Okay, so I'm telling, it's a slow burn process. So if your startup is advertising, how do you ensure that all the traffic which has come gets used later? How can they constant be in touch? You cannot always spend money to get them, right? That's where content has to be used. Yeah.
Influencer marketing was an example here, but influencer marketing is also a journey. It's not a one-off. If you, like she said, consistency in terms of your presence. If you're going to do any activity, whether it's influencer marketing or anything else, if it's going to come once in 2 months and then you're off and then you come back after 3 months, those individual activities are also not going to yield any results. Eventually, the metrics have to be measured over a period of time. The ones that I mentioned may be instant metrics also, which have to be treated with a pinch of salt. But eventually it has to be measured over time. And I'm not saying that time is 10 years. Yes, you have to measure it annually at least. You can't expect results instantly. So that, I think, is something one needs to drive. I also think that in a lot of cases, agencies and content creators also need to possibly have more clarity and under promise and over deliver. A lot of cases what's happening is there is a lot of over promising happening, that these are our past analytics, this is what one post of ours has achieved, or this is one activity that we did for that brand that achieved this much. The budgets would have been different, the period of activity would have been different, the intensity of effort would have been different. It can't be just one isolated comparison of what one has done and copy paste that to another brand.
If I can add one more point to
sure,
that.
Amit.
So I think one challenge is, I think I totally relate to it. A lot of clients, right, when they come to us, they immediately, expect that today you do a social post for us and tomorrow I need to have 500 followers. That is something from our end, we need to show them a red flag that, boss, this does not happen in the real world. We have to show them, like as you said, show them by means of an average, like, okay, 6 mahine mein you get these many followers if you do these many things, if you create these blogs, and if you consistently create that content. That consistency is something that these clients they don't believe in. They'll think that, okay, 2 blogs a month is more than enough. It doesn't work. Monthly, weekly, 2 blogs, it will create some content. It will create some consistency. So I think from our end, what we need to do, if that answers your question also in a bit, please be upfront in saying that, boss, if you're expecting an overnight success, it doesn't work. Because as one cliched thing says, like, overnight success comes after 15 years of working. So on those lines, you need to explain, I guess. That's it.
I think what Amit said is something I face as a production house who creates video content for brands. A lot of brands come to us saying, you know, we've heard that you can create high quality content at very reasonable costs. How do we go about doing this? I need to create around, you know, 10 to 15 videos this year. I said it's too less. It's too less. What he's referring to as consistency is what I'd say frequency. I was in a Facebook workshop a few months back, and even Facebook mentioned you can create the best piece of content in the world, and yet only a limited few are going to see it. Frequency is what is critical. Don't seek perfection. You keep improving every piece of content, but if you're going to seek perfection from that one piece of content, you know, as if that is the panacea for all evils, that's not going to happen. You have to be at it all the time, all the time. And this is not just about posts or carousels or stories or blogs. I'm talking videos here. For Club Mahindra itself, we've created 2,000 plus videos in the last 4 years. That's the kind of intensity I'm talking about, and that is where constant creation throughout the year, constant repurposing, recycling, like she said, throughout the year. And this is just one brand I'm giving you an example of. This is something that we've you know, attempted to achieve and achieved for a lot more brands across categories.
Yeah, thank you. Myself, Professor Swapnil, I'm from Indira Institute of Management, Pune. As you have rightly mentioned that financial literacy of India is around 24%. I just want to ask a basic question that how we can use this content to increase the financial literacy. So, are any companies doing that, or what are the tools they are using to increase the financial literacy apart from selling or pitching their product itself? Yeah, thank you.
Right. So I think that's what Amphi is one of the best examples. Okay, you go Egon Relige. Okay, has done. There's a content piece called Tomorrow Makers. Look for that. It's a complete blog post with over like thousands of articles. Okay, and it's only educating you about BFSI. Okay, a lot of the brands, HDFC Bank has started. Okay, we have what 2,000 plus articles. Okay, regional as well as English, which is completely talking you about. Completely about it's all content led where and the basic definition of content is the brand or the product specifically takes a very subtle plug-in later on as convenient to the guy. Okay, there is no mention about product upfront. It's about you as an enabler, your passion point, and how you come to, and how do we do that? Obviously, there we have to mention about to how do you get help over there, right? So there's a lot of effort that's coming in. The whole world of influencers, which is coming very heavy on educating content. Today, people used to only think about fixed deposit as on the only mode of instrument, right? Because their parents have told or their friends have been doing it. That's a age-old product, right? Today, look at the people who are reducing in FDs and going towards mutual funds. That's the growth. That's talking by itself. Financial fraud is one of the things, the most important thing that it's a big deterrent for people to come to digital, especially the empty nest, especially 45 plus, 50 plus. But people, we have to be aware. And I think a lot of content is being, and a lot of efforts being taken care by the brands and the ecosystem. And both have to come hand in hand to kind of educate the people over here. Yeah.
So there are two products that I think you should keep in mind. There is an app called Varsity by Zerodha. If you don't have that downloaded, I think you should do that because it's called Varsity by Zerodha. It tells you everything that you need to know about how to manage your finances. And then there's something called Get Bases. It's a women-only sort of a startup which educates just women on how to handle their finances, how to handle their financial literacy. And they both are doing an excellent job. Varsity is there for kids as well. So Zerodha has introduced a Varsity for kids, so that basically you can start early, in addition to whatever Jayed mentioned, yes.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Disha, and everybody, Vishal, and the entire session. And I'm really moved, Vishal, by the way, to see so many questions coming up, and that too on the D-Day, the Valentine's Day. Everybody has sacrificed the sleep, morning love, yeah. On that note, huh? Absolutely, content and content marketing and digital era is definitely the first thing that comes to our mind. So on that note, I would want you to please give them a round of applause for this lovely session that they have delivered, and I really look forward to have a season 2 on this, considering the amount of questions people have. And I think if you have a lot of questions out there, you can totally come up with the questions offline. And I look forward to have a season 2 definitely very soon. And moving further, we have the token of appreciation for all our panelists. So please